is Shayla with The Sacred Way. Thank you for joining us on another episode of The Sacred. Well, this is our first episode, technically, of The Sacred Temple, which is something new that we're doing in order to honor the body and how sacred our bodies are. So we have today, this is Rob Coach Rob, sorry. And he runs an incredible Skool community. If you're not familiar with Skool, it is amazing. There are groups for literally everything. And I've met Coach Rob through his Pure Life Mindset group. And I am now an elite member because his coaching and his support and encouragement and consistency and always helping people has been like such an integral part of my journey. And he's an amazing human in general, extremely supportive. He's a fitness coach, also, right? Fitness and wellness.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Also specializing in sobriety, helping people along in their journey. And so thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here. I appreciate that.
So talk about your story, your background, what got you into coaching, why, like, where's your passion lie, and how that relates to fitness, sobriety, and your spiritual development through that.
Yeah. So I'll go back a couple of years. I was once a chef in my past life. I mean, I'm still a chef, but I'm no longer practicing as a chef. And cooking was always my passion. I always loved cooking from the young age of 17, 18 years old. I was passionate about cooking. So my dream was always to open up a restaurant. And I fulfilled that dream a few years back. It was about 7 or 8 years ago. I opened up my restaurant. It was such a dream for me. I absolutely loved it. Until, to be honest with you, that dream turned into a nightmare for me. I became a complete slave to my business. It was a lot more work than I thought. My passion of cooking for people and watching people enjoy the food just turned into slave work, basically. I no longer had that passion anymore. I was just cooking and slaving in the kitchen for hours and hours, days on end, working crazy, crazy hours. And if you're familiar with the restaurant business, the alcohol is very prevalent in the restaurant business, unfortunately. And a lot of chefs, fall to alcoholism due to high stress, crazy hours, so I unfortunately fell to alcohol pretty heavily. So, for 2 years of my life, it was basically a huge blur. It was a 2 year binge, drinking binge. So it was tough. I was working, like I said, 7 days a week. I was like a functional drunk, or at least I thought I was in the beginning until it started to show. I started realizing that I wasn't, necessarily in control anymore, and people were starting to take notice, and I was, becoming slowly becoming a mess. So one day, driving to work, I realized I had an issue. I was starting to really realize that I was having an issue. Actually, I went to rehab a couple of times. I had to close the restaurant for a little bit, trying to get my act together and stuff. It worked, temporarily, but eventually I always fell back into the booze. Until one day I was driving to work. I was already drunk. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning. I was drinking and driving already to work, and I basically had a bottle of wine in the center console, and I ended up passing out at the wheel on the highway, going 120 or whatever. And the next thing I know is I woke up. I was in a ditch. The car was completely total destroyed, and I came out of there by some miracle unscathed.
Wow.
So, that was my wake up call, where I was like, okay, dude, like, what are you doing here? Either you're gonna end up killing yourself, or you're gonna kill somebody else, right? So this has to stop right now. So that was basically the final wake up call that I needed to get myself sober. And that was 5 years ago. So I've been sober now 5 years. And ever since then, I've been on a journey of personal development, trying to, you know, learn more about life and what it's all about, the meaning of life, and fulfillment and joy, and all of that. And And I used to be somebody that I was very, very driven. I still am very driven, but in a different way.
You're a driven
Uh,
person.
Sorry?
I was gonna say you're a driven person. I've seen you operate.
Yes, I'm definitely still a driven person. That I don't think will ever change, but my reason behind it is different. I used to I always look for validation from others and whatnot. Now I no longer need that. Anyway, so the last 5 years, I've been really on this personal development journey and sobriety and whatnot. Sobriety is also obviously very, very close to my heart. So the last couple of years, I've been, I got into fitness big time too. The gym. I mean, the gym really, really saved my life in terms of getting my mental health back in order. I mean, it really
I'd
has.
like,
Go
I'd
ahead.
like to dig into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, so specifically, because I know you and I have talked personally, but I think there's a lot of value into getting into your mindset because there's a lot of people that struggle with addiction
Mm,
and don't always realize the connection between the physical aspect and the mental aspect. So can you get into like your mindset of when you would go to the gym? And I know you had an issue right with your arm, with your wrist.
yeah.
So like we get
Yes.
into that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was always relatively fit and relatively into working out. It was always kind of part of my life, but I didn't look at it from a mental perspective like I did in the last 4 or 5 years or so. I used to look at it just as a physical, like, okay, I want to look good, I want to be, fit and whatnot. But the last few years, with struggling with addiction and mental health and anxiety, the gym really, battling your demons in the gym for me was like a huge thing, like just the mental clarity that I would get out of, just throwing weights around and really a high intensity workouts and just getting all of that negativity, that negative vibe out of me, that anger, that sadness, that whatever that needed to come out, that negativity that was deep inside me, inside my soul. I needed to release that, and I was able to release that through the gym, and it became my new addiction. I was able to replace the addiction of alcoholism with a new addiction, a much more positive addiction, obviously, with the gym, and it really, like I said, it saved my life. To this day, I'm there on a daily, not because I need to necessarily physically, but I need to for my mental health more than anything else. It's really become my anchor. It's become my savior. I mean, it's my life now. I can't go without it. You know what I mean? A day without going to the gym for me is a very difficult one, in the sense that I can feel it. When I'm not when I'm going, I'm not starting my day with a good workout. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is what you're used to. This is your regular thing now. So what are some
Absolutely.
mindsets that you feel like you broke while going to the gym? Like what are specific things? Like can you recall specific mindsets that you had to work through and like where did you get to?
Well, in terms of facing things that I ignored in the past, that I came to realize that ignoring things or pretending like they're not there was not the right approach, and what the gym taught me is that you have to be willing to go through the pain in order to come out the other side. You have to be willing to suffer a little bit and fight through that suffering and pain in order to heal in the end. So again, my past, the way I thought of things in the past was, okay, just ignore things, things that happened to you in the past or whatever. Just push them back there, push them back there. You're a man, you're a strong guy. You don't need to show weakness. But showing weakness it's not necessarily weakness, you know. I mean, showing vulnerability in the end is not weakness, and that's a lot what the gym taught me, is that in order to heal, you need to be willing to go through, you know, the crap, and really face those demons head on, and really, it's the only way to heal. You cannot avoid it. You cannot push it back. You cannot you know, go over it, beside it, whatever. You have to go right through it, right?
Right. And that's the nugget right there, is that what you had said before, is that you couldn't run away anymore, right? Because you're confronted. And it's almost like when, I guess I'll get into it a little bit. So, why I fell in love with yoga is because, like, the true yoga, it presents this mind body breath connection where you can't get away from yourself, because every asana or every pose that you do forces you to confront something within. So because, like, a pose may be very difficult, especially physically, you have to get your mental state, your breath, and your senses all together in line in order to work through that mindset. And it's really interesting. And with that being said, it's kind of like, that's why we go to the gym as well. It's, different modality, but the same idea, is that we have inner mindsets that are going on, dysfunctional mindsets.
Mm-hmm.
And when you push your body, you're also pushing your mind. So it's almost like how we move our body is challenging how we're going to move our mental processes, and how we're going to work through that in order to come on the other end a stronger, more healed, more effective person. Because you can't fake it at the gym, right? Either you can lift that weight or you can't
Mm-hmm.
manipulate yourself. Like, it's kind of like math. It's logical. Like, either you can do it or you can't. Or like, if you
Mm-hmm.
have that goal of running a mile or running 2 miles or running 12 miles, you
Mm-hmm.
can't fake that. You can't manipulate your way. Like, it forces you, if I'm going to do this physical task, I can't
Mm-hmm.
be minded, right? Because if I'm
Mm-hmm.
stuck in my brain and I'm like, oh, I can't do this, guess what? You're not
Mm-hmm.
doing it. So,
Mm-hmm.
but then when you shift that mindset, right, of like, you know what? I may not be able to do 12 miles yet. I can start off with a half a mile and see where that goes, right? So
Mm-hmm.
but it's almost like it forces you to become more realistic in your thinking, what your
Mm-hmm.
capabilities are, assess
Mm-hmm.
yourself where you're really at, and
Yeah.
accept that, not shame it, but then
Yeah.
use that as like a base to kind of jump off of, and then move towards a goal from that jumping point, not out of
Mm-hmm.
shame, but out of like reality of, this is where I'm at,
Mm-hmm.
accepting it, and then, pushing and driving yourself towards something greater.
Absolutely. There's no quick fixes when it comes to the gym
Right,
or with mental health, right? So
right,
that's the correlation right there, is that if you want results, you have to be willing to put in the work. It's the
right,
same thing with mental health. You can't just put a, you know, patch job, put a band-aid on it and hope that it'll just disappear or heal on its own. It's impossible. There's no quick fix. So, you know, and I tried the quick fix in the past in terms of my mental health. I mean, I did the medication route. I took the antidepressants. I took, you know, the sleeping pills and all this crap that the doctors were feeding me. You know, just take this pill, you'll be all right. And that just brought other issues about. You know what I mean? So,
and
uh,
you're addicted to pills anyway.
yeah, exactly. So, you know what? That was a, and today, I mean, I'm on no medication whatsoever, and I'm in, you know, the best shape of my life physically and mentally, you know. So medication for me, I mean, if you can, there's some good things and bad things about it, obviously, but if you're able to avoid that, I mean, do so for sure. And like, again, the gym was it taught me about, you know, delayed gratification, you know,
Yep.
no instant gratification. You have to be able to put in the work. You have to grind away, fight away, and push through, and you know, days that you don't necessarily want to go, you know, you're not feeling the best, whatever, you go anyway, and you keep pushing through, and you know, it teaches you resilience and perseverance,
Right.
and resistance to pain, and there's so many benefits. There are more benefits in my opinion, mentally, to your mental state than there is physically. The mental state it doesn't necessarily show in appearance, but my goodness, I mean, it's the world of a difference when you integrate fitness into your life on a regular basis. It makes a huge difference. I'm a huge advocate of that. For me, that is the ultimate antidepressant, is movement and
Mm.
physical activity. Period. It
Well, right.
doesn't
I
have,
mean,
for me personally, it's weightlifting, but it could be yoga, like you just mentioned. It could be walking in the park. It could be running, jogging, Pilates, whatever, anything physical.
dancing, right?
Da-
Dancing, because a lot of people
Dancing.
forget dancing is exercise, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I kid you not, and I'm not even joking. Like my sister and I and friends, we've talked about this. Going to the club, especially in my teenage years when I was like, my parents were going through divorce and everything,
Hmm.
probably saved me because I danced off so much of the junk
Yeah.
that I was going through that like
Mm.
it helped me to deal with stuff. So it may
Yeah.
sound silly, but like raves and clubs and like, yeah, in some ways, that's why people go to a lot of those things. It really is exercise. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
not saying, it's the cure all, but anything that moves your body. And,
Mm.
and that brings me to another idea or position is that, the gym can be like a sacred space for people. And it's something
Mhm.
that I don't think we talk about enough and realize because I don't know many people who are deeply, devoutly spiritual who don't really go to the gym. Most of
Mhm.
us do, or have some level of exercise because we inherently know that it's a practice, right?
Mhm.
The practice or the essential idea of what a practice is making something part of your life every day that's going
Mhm.
to challenge your mind, body, heart, soul connection, right? So
Mhm.
when we do these things, when we walk into the gym, right? Like for me, I've always said that the things that I do at the gym, I'm working through things very intentionally. I'm not just going and doing stuff energetically, spiritually, physically, emotionally. I'm working through
Mhm.
trauma. I'm working
Mhm.
through a hard day. I'm working
Mhm.
through parenting struggles. I'm
Yeah.
working, going through divorce struggles. Like I'm working through
Mhm.
all of these issues while I'm
Yeah.
at the gym. Like if I'm running towards my goals. Or maybe I
Mhm.
had a crap day. I'm running away from that day because it was terrible, right? Like I'm
Mhm.
acting that out mentally, but also physically. It's like what's going on inside of me now becomes a physical manifestation. I can embody that. And that
Mhm.
actually releases trauma. If you've ever, there's a great book. I don't know if you're familiar with it. With I think it's James Vanderkolk, "The Body Keeps the Score." Are you familiar? Have
No,
you
not
read that?
familiar.
Right, but it's the idea that our body stores trauma, and the only way to get it out is through sometimes reenacting things like fight or flight, running, or just somatically moving through it. So
Mhm.
that's also another proof why this is like these are spiritual concepts, these are physical things, these are emotional, mental wellness. It all
Mhm.
comes together as one thing. And if we
Yeah.
believe our body is the temple, right? If we,
Mhm.
a lot of faith traditions, Christianity, Islam, Judaism,
Mhm.
Buddhism, Hinduism, there's not many faith traditions in this world, even Native Americans, indigenous cultures,
Mhm.
that don't believe in the sacredness of the human body. We have
Mhm.
decorated ourselves. We have created rituals in order
Mhm.
to honor and respect our bodies. Actually, in Greek, the word for body is soma. And in the Bible, because I read the Bible a lot, and in the New Testament, when they talk about the body of Christ or how Jesus's body was the temple, that's the word soma, which is where we get the word somatic from. Right. So I just think that's a
Mhm.
little funny, interesting play on words, how it's also the mystical body of the church, but it's also the physical body of who we are, or the body
Mhm.
of our savior, or, God in physical form, or
Mhm.
just the body of knowledge, wisdom, in physical appearance.
Mhm.
So what's your spiritual journey like? Do you connect spiritually in the gym at all, or?
I do. I mean, I'm definitely someone that I don't go to the gym at all to socialize. I'm there, to really put in the work mentally, and it's spiritually. I'm new to spirituality, to be quite honest with you, and it's something that I'm really looking to dive into more and more. And I definitely feel like I'm getting to another level when in terms of when I'm at the gym and I'm really into my thoughts and really battling those demons. I really feel like I'm at a higher vibration. You know what I mean? Like alcoholism kind of kept me in this numb, low vibrational state, of just misery and my little bubble kind of thing, right? This cloud over my head. And when I'm at the gym is when I feel like I'm most elevated in my life and closest to my true self, and I feel fulfilled, and I feel joy. I also feel anger, I feel sadness. Sometimes I allow myself to feel all of what I need to feel
Right.
that day, whatever it might be. If I'm going through some difficult times, the gym will help me through that difficult time. If I need to fight through some sadness, it will help me heal. So there's so many aspects to the gym that can help me in all aspects of mental health for me. So and in terms of movement, it kind of makes me movement is life. Movement is life, regardless of how you look at it. And I'm big into fishing and whatnot. I'm a nature guy, and it makes me think of water. Stagnant water is disease, is death. It eventually dies out. In order to have a lake that is healthy, it needs movement. It needs water coming in, water coming out. It
Yeah.
needs different types of animals, feeding it and whatnot. There's constant movement in a healthy lake or river. So for me, I look at it like that. We're the same thing. We need movement in our life, and if there is stagnation in our life, we slowly die. It's just that's how life is built, right?
And we call that the Tao, or the Holy Spirit, life force energy, the Ruach, the Pneuma. That's exactly what it is that life force energy. That is the breath of God inside of us that keeps us animated and going. And it's like, that's where energy kind of comes in too, because energy is that force that is in the universe but also within us, and we tap into it. And it's literally like when Jesus would say, like, draw from the well, or you'll have like that, you'll never have to thirst again. That's literally what he was talking about too,
Mm.
was this never ending well of energy, of life source, of being able to be fulfilled, because we're energetic beings. And like you said, exactly, I always say movement is life and stillness is death, because
Mm-hmm.
dead bodies don't move, right?
Exactly.
Same thing. Or
Absolutely.
you're dragging them around trying to, and it's dead weight anyway, so it's got to go.
Yeah, so no, definitely, if you're battling mental health, the first thing I would say was it would be just to get outside. Just get outside. You know what I mean? People get stuck in their homes, and they get down on themselves, and sometimes just to get some fresh air outside will change your mood. Just go for a walk, a bike
Right.
ride, whatever, any type of movement, and sometimes it's difficult for some people to get that momentum going. You know what I mean? I don't mean going to the gym and just going all out. Small baby steps, small things that you can do on a daily that will get you active. Joining a yoga class. You could do a beginner's yoga class, whatever the case might be. I would highly suggest.
I would say join our Skool community, because you have kept my butt accountable for how long now? For real, because that's, for me, is consistency, is having that accountability partner of like, are you going to the gym? Are you going to the gym? Or even if I'm not, are you doing something? Are you doing something to take care of yourself,
Yes,
to acknowledge yourself? And I
yes,
will say that was what's so great about our group. um,
absolutely.
Again, we're a Skool community, pure life mindset. Join us. And the elite group was even more amazing because I'm on.
Yes.
No,
Absolutely.
but I mean, we're having amazing people come on to do Zooms like this. I do spirituality, but there's other people that will help with sobriety, with mindset, with wellness, with business, even lots of different topics. So definitely join our Skool community. But
Yes.
mini commercial break. But no, I mean, and the idea of nature too, like, I mean, that's where we come from. We seem to forget we come from nature, we are nature. That's why my whole spiel is aligning with the rhythms and the cycles of nature, with the moon, with the sun, with the seasons, because it kind of ritualizes our life. But again, it's taking the internal state and
Hmm.
connecting with our external reality and like finding alignment with all of it. And with that, we move, right? We find ways of acting out our
Hmm.
mental processes, and that happens in the negative too, right? Like if we're acting out our mental processes in terms of I need a drink, what's that telling you? If I'm acting out that specific thing, is that inside I'm hurting, I don't have the skills to cope with my pain, so this is how my
Hmm.
body is choosing to do it. I have a fixed mindset, maybe, or maybe I have the mindset of, like you said, instant gratification. So I
Hmm.
think also watching our movements and watching our behaviors, both positive and negative, or rather I say what's achieving your goals and what's not, or holding you back from achieving your goals. I think looking at that also helps us to understand what our movements are telling us about our internal state.
Hmm. Absolutely. Alcohol, it was never, it's not the issue, it's the
Right,
solution. It's the solution
right,
to a problem. It's a terrible solution, but
right.
it's the solution to a problem that you've ignored. It's a discomfort that you have inside that you want to numb. You know what I mean? It might just be that you're not comfortable in your own skin. You're trying to escape something. It's a way to escape and to numb yourself. So, alcohol was never an issue in that sense, where it was the solution that I had at the time, but it's obviously the wrong solution. So I'm grateful that I was able to overcome that, and really face what I needed to face. And that process can take many, many years. You know what I mean? And there's no set time, there's no race. As long as you're working towards what you need to work on, personally, you'll eventually get there. For me, it took almost 20 years to get to the point where I am now, where I'm actually healing, and I'm still healing on a daily. I'm still working on myself, and I think that as humans, we'll continue to heal. We'll never be, there's always learning, there's always evolving, there's always growing to do. I think we will do so for the rest of our lives, right? But
I think they get to a point where our past doesn't hold us back anymore. So I think when we talk about movement, I think it's where the healing process is, there's still things inside of us that are creating blockages for moving towards where we want to be. And so
yeah.
it's a matter of, that's really the end of the day. Because like you said, it's not the alcohol, right? That's just a tool or the solution for what's really going on inside, because it may not be alcohol for some people. It may be phones, it may be sex, it may be drugs, it may be
Yeah.
being too over involved with their children. I've seen that as an addiction, believe it or not.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
being too involved, like you're running away. It really comes down to
Yeah.
anything where it's a coping skill, where you're running away. And I
Hmm.
lost my train of thought, totally went off in tangent. However, I'll find a way to bring it back. But I mean, the idea of that, it takes time to build up these skill sets, right? Like that's the problem, is that we want instant gratification. I'm in pain, I want to stop now. I want the pain to
Yes.
stop now. No, honey,
Yes.
pain is a process of
Mhm.
right? I mean, healing is a process of figuring out why the pain is there, how to
Mhm.
deal with it, how to take care of ourselves, because
Mhm.
maybe we were never taught how to actually care for
Mhm.
ourselves. And that's where
Mhm.
like self attunement and nervous system support and stuff comes in when we're healing from trauma and all that as well.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so that's the other thing I'm thinking too, is like a lot of people don't, well, okay, I'm not going to say that they don't, like, sorry, brain snapped for a second. It's like when you want to say 12 things at once and they're all coming out at once. And then it's like, wait, hold on, rewind. I was going to say, it feels like a lot of faith communities don't really acknowledge how important sobriety is, to honor again the sacred temple of our bodies. Of
Yeah.
it is a spiritual act in and of itself to not inebriate ourselves, to not
100%.
numb ourselves, right? Like
Mhm.
life is a lived experience. We need to feel. We need to experience the world and life in its fullness, but we need the tools to be able to not get overwhelmed with the experience of life. And that's really, I feel, the key of what creates addiction
Mm-hmm.
is that we have a nervous system that's on fire. We have had to endure tremendous pain, and the only out from that pain is this addiction. So now, how do I learn how to tend and care for my nervous system in a way that now I can handle life?
Mm. Yeah, well said. Absolutely. Completely agree with you. Completely agree with you. We don't like, as humans, we don't like discomfort. We don't like pain, and it's a normal thing. Who wants to go through pain? But we don't realize that in order to find, ultimate fulfillment and joy, we have to be willing to go through that pain. You cannot avoid it. You cannot numb it. You cannot push it
Well, it's like
back to tomorrow.
you always
Sorry?
say, pick the pain. It's going to hurt anyway. Which pain do you want? I think, or you get
Exactly.
out of that, right? Like, pick your
Yeah.
pain. You're going to be hurting. You can either suffer or you can grow. It's
Yeah.
growing pains or struggling.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So once you've learned that, and that's a huge thing that I learned from the gym, obviously,
Right.
is that pain to grow, is a perfect analogy, when it comes to the gym and mental
Right. I mean,
health. Absolutely.
right. Because the manifestation of that pain is muscles, right? So the physical
Yeah.
manifestation. And we can't see the muscles that are going on inside of us, but like we have mental muscles of that's what kind of you call resilience, right? It's the same thing, that mental muscle of this situation's not going to break me. It's going to
Hmm.
stretch me, right? It'll expand me and I'll contract back again. And that's
Hmm.
how we grow muscle, right? Muscle's like torn, right? And then it heals again and it tears and it
Yep.
heals again. It's
Yep.
the same thing with our emotional fabric and our
Same
mental
thing.
fabric and our spiritual fabric. It's like this energy expands us and contracts us. It expands and contracts us. And we
Yep.
have to go through this continual process of dealing with the pain in order to deal with, because really, what is that pain? It's internal pressure, right? There's some kind
Hmm.
of internal pressure, something going on there that we get used to or we know how to manage. That's how, when you're supporting your nervous system, that's what that does.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
that's the physical manifestation of it. But the mental part is watching the resilience take
Yeah.
take hold, right? Or being able to handle situations you never could have handled before. So you see it in different ways, even though it's not, a physical thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, now when I'm faced with an issue, or a problem that I need, solution to, I no longer run away from it. I no longer push it to tomorrow. I realize that there's going to be some suffering. There's going to be some hardship. There's going to be some difficulty coming up, but I'm ready for it. I acknowledge it. I know that it's coming, and I'm prepared for it. And I know that by going through that hardship, there's going to be some growth. There's going to be some learning. You know what I mean? So I no longer see the way, pain is. I no longer. I'm trying to find my words right now. There's no more running around. There's no more running away. Excuse me, from the
Oh, right.
pain. So yeah,
Right. There's no getting around it, right?
exactly.
And I was thinking, like, as you were talking, what kind of came into my mind is the fact that you can now, and we can now handle pain because of the confidence we've gained over time, right? Like, it takes
Yes.
that first act of bravery. And I always tell people that I'm coaching, or anybody really, like, when we're like, oh, or even my kids, they're like, oh, well, I'm afraid. And I'm like, it's okay to be afraid. Fear's not the problem. Do it afraid. Don't not do it just because you're afraid. Do it while you're afraid, right? Like, the first time I ever had to stand up and marry people, I was terrified. I literally thought I was going to die in front of the entire the
Mm.
entire wedding, and
Yeah.
I'm like, no, 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 it's okay. You'll work through it. You can do hard things. You can do this afraid. And then,
Yeah.
I snapped out of it. It's fine, right? It's
Mhm.
like that. We have to remember, and then that builds the confidence. So the more that we step out
Absolutely.
of our comfort zone for that first time's a bitch. It's
Oh
a
yeah. Yes, of course. But the sense
yeah,
of victory, though, once you've
yeah,
accomplished it,
right,
that sense of achievement is that becomes an addiction in itself too. After, it's like,
right,
my God, I actually did that. You know what I mean? It's like, wow. And the more you challenge yourself, the more you step out of that comfort zone, the more you grow and evolve. I mean, you become, you get that sense being unstoppable. You know what I mean? So the more you challenge yourself, the more you grow. I mean, if people can just realize that everything that they've ever wanted is on the other side of fear, everything that they've ever desired is just on the other side of fear. That's what it is. Plain and simple, there's no other way. And as humans, we all have fear. None of us are fearless. It's just the way we react to fear. We don't let it hold us back. We acknowledge it, that it's there. We are all human. We all live with fear, but it doesn't hold us back anymore. We know that it's gonna come, and we know that we're gonna have to go through it. But we don't allow it to hold us back, like many people do, unfortunately. They think that they're the only ones. What's wrong with me? I'm afraid. Why am I afraid? Why is that person able to do what I'm incapable of doing? It's just that they've realized that there's going to be some pain. They acknowledge it, and they go through it anyway. And the more you challenge yourself, the more you step out of your comfort zone, the more you get used to taking on these challenges, and the more you grow.
Right. And yeah, it's that fear. That's such a good point, because a lot of us, well, speaking about sobriety, or even like, January 1st is like the most signups for the gym, right? So
Yep.
it's like we have this idea of that we're going to do this, right? But we become afraid of, like, the second it starts to hurt, of like, oh, you mean I have to wake up at god hour, like ungodly hours to go to the gym now? Oh, that fucking
Mhm.
sucks, right? Like, it
Yeah.
becomes painful, and then we give up, and that's the difference between people who succeed and who don't, right? Is like, well, they push through that pain, they push through that fear,
Yeah.
or that fear of like, what happens if I can't do this, or what happens if I start where you're at, right? Like,
Mhm.
accept, like, okay, this is where I'm at. Maybe I can't be here, but I can be here, right? Or like, in sobriety, I think a huge, and correct me if I'm wrong, and please feel free to add some insight.
Mhm.
I mean, I have my own addictions. It's not drugs and alcohol, but got my own little things, right? But like, I feel that the fear behind addictions is the fear of, well, having to see things we don't always want to see within us, and then having to deal with them. That is really hard, because it also, I mean, it requires, and I tell you, I feel like people in recovery, you guys are warriors. And I truly mean that, because I've lost friends to drugs, and I know what the opposite end of that looks like. I've lost family, like, they're out there. I know what it looks like when you don't heal and you don't
Yeah.
recover, and you live a life, an entire life wasted, right?
Mhm.
Sorry, that's like really, that means a lot to me. So to
Yeah.
see people that actually, you go to the meetings, you fucking do the work, you have sponsors, you support each other, you push through, that takes an incredible, and I mean an incredible amount of strength. So kudos. I
Thank you.
know what that takes, for
Mhm.
real. And
Yeah.
also, yeah, like, I would say anyone listening to this that is battling sobriety or any addiction in any way, shape, or form,
Mhm.
take it from this guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely not easy, but you have to be, the first thing is that you have to really put your ego aside and realize that you need help. You can't do it on your own. You've tried personally. That's that when I talk about the addiction personally, I tried to do it on my own for many years. I tried to ignore it. I tried to pretend it wasn't there. I tried to fight it off. It was a losing battle. So the first thing, go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, what was it that you were afraid of? What was it that you were afraid of that was stopping you from getting the help?
Showing weakness, just saying that I need help.
Right.
Just saying that I need help, that I don't have it under control, that I'm a human being that is imperfect.
Mm.
To show imperfection was a huge thing for me. I'm a very proud guy, so for me to show weakness and to say that I don't have everything under control
Right.
was hard, very, very, very hard for me. So to look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, you cannot you continue on this path. You cannot continue on this path because you are going towards the grave. That is a guaranteed. You know, that's where you're going right now. So you either put your ego aside and you know, wave that white flag and say, I need help,
Yeah.
or you're you know, the other side is 6 feet under. So, you know, I remember just coming to tears one day. I was in the kitchen, you know, and just bawling my eyes out and saying, okay, I give up. I'm done. I'm done now. I need help. You know what I mean? And I basically told my wife, call the rehab center. You know, I'm done. I'm tapped out. I need help because I can no longer keep going. So until you're ready to do that yourself, until you're ready to heal, nobody's going to be able to do it for you. You know, like everybody has somebody in their life, like you just mentioned, that's battling addiction. You can't save them, you know what I mean, from themselves. They have to be willing to help themselves. Until that point, until they realize that they need the help, there's no helping them. You can support them, you could try and be there for them, but until that moment where they really decide that they need the help, there's nothing that you can do, you know, unfortunately. And I've seen this time and time again. I've been to rehab, like I said, twice, and I've met some unbelievable people. And that's the thing too. People that suffer with addictions are the most unbelievable human beings. They're
Determined as fuck. Y'all are persistent as hell, right? Because when you want something, you will get it. For
but they're
real.
also super kind-hearted people. They're just
Right.
people that are hurting. You know what I mean? They're just people that are suffering,
Right.
that just need to heal. You know, so we tend to look at, you know, at addicts as these, you know, terrible human beings. They're just broken people that just need, you know, fixing. You know,
Right.
that's all it is.
So it's funny because as you were talking before, the first thing that came to my mind, and this is a very spiritual thing, is I'm probably gonna choke up a little bit because it hits home. And I see it everywhere in all the work that I do and every single person that I connect with, not every single, a lot of us, is the feeling of unworthiness. We
Mm,
don't realize how worthy and how valuable we are. We don't
mm,
realize the sacredness of our human experience. The fact that we are alive, that we are a creature walking this earth is a gift and a miracle in and of itself. And we take these things so for granted when this life is not meant to be taken for granted. It's meant to be
mm,
valued.
mm,
And we as people, right, if we have the spirit of God within us, if we have the breath of life, if we have the breath of all creation living within us, what makes us think that we're not worthy of value? And I think what happens is, you know, in childhood, when we don't have parental figures to mirror to us that value and worth, right? If they don't fight for us, if they're neglectful, if they're abusive, we have this idea of who we are in our minds, and we carry that narrative with us. And that's where I think a lot of the pain comes from, or traumatic events, even if it was not our parents necessarily. Let's say it was school, right? We were rejected from our peers, or we had health issues, whatever it is. You know, there's a lot of wounds that tell us that we're not worthy. We're not even worthy to live. So what do? We kill ourselves.
yeah,
We
yeah.
we smoke cigarettes, right? We do all those things that are meant to help us in the moment, but in the long run, they kill us. They are designed to destroy our fucking bodies. And I
Absolutely.
think that to me, if there's one takeaway that someone who's struggling is that you're worthy, that
Mm,
you are absolutely worth fighting for yourself, that you show up for yourself every day, that you love who you are. And I know that takes time because it's taken me a long time to finally realize that I am worth good friends. I am worth a
mhm,
family that loves me. I'm worth
mhm,
people who respect me and understand the value of what I bring to their lives. Like I've
yeah.
had to learn that the hard way through a lot of
Mhm,
loss, and I'm sure you as well. So if there's
mhm.
anything you want to add on to that, and then we'll wrap it up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for myself was definitely, you know, in terms of my parents. I mean, I was forced to move out when I was 17 years old. I mean, my stepfather was physically and verbally abusive to me. So for me to that that lack of love always stuck with me. You know what I mean? I just wanted validation. I just wanted, to be loved and accepted. You know what I mean? So I always had that chip on my shoulder, and I was, always that's where that drive came. Is like I want to show my value to the world, that I'm worth something. And so I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, but I ignored those traumas, and that eventually came out in the form of addiction. So, and that goes for a lot of people in their lives, like you just said so beautifully, is that they just need to be told that they're valuable, that their lives are worth something. You know what I mean? And there's so many sad stories out there, unfortunately. And yeah, addiction is definitely hits home to me. And if I can, help anybody out there, that's suffering, I'm there, because I've been there too. And if I can help somebody, like I said, out there, heal and just take it, bring it to sobriety eventually. Yeah, I'm definitely there for you.
I know you are. You always are, and I appreciate you. Well, so where can people find you? Let's give all of the info. Where do we find Coach Rob?
Yeah, well, you can find me on Skool, Skool. You could search in the discovery page. You could search Pure Life Mindset. So I started this community just over 6 months ago. We're already reached 600 members, which is amazing. We're creating this awesome community. We talk about, all things personal development, fitness, business, sobriety, of course, spirituality. So yeah, and now we're just kicked off our elite program. There's so many great things coming up. A lot of collaborators working on this project, including yourself, which I'm super excited about. You're going to be doing your Zoom on next Sunday. So a lot of exciting stuff coming up. So if you are looking to better your life, come find us on Skool, because this is an amazing community, and there are a ton of great people in this community. We really support one another. Yeah, the amount of support that we get, it's not only about me. It's really truly a community, and the sense of again, community and sharing is so next level, that yeah, come see us, come join us. It's a blast.
It really is. And I've really come to, it's so funny because I've made some really good friends in that group. And I swear, I'm
Yeah.
like, we need to do a real life like get together so we can meet each other in person, because this online,
Yes,
like, I
it's
mean,
gonna
really,
happen. It's gonna
it has
happen.
to. It really has to, because there's some amazing people we have in our group.
Yeah.
What about your socials? You have YouTube and Instagram, right?
Yeah, yeah. You can find me on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram, TikTok as
Yeah.
well. I'm huge on TikTok. So look for Life Coach Rob, and on all of those platforms. I'm
And
there.
I'll add them too. I'll add them in the description too.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, seriously, thank you so much for being here. Rob is incredibly supportive and encouraging. He will definitely keep you accountable. So if you need a coach, especially in regards to fitness, wellness, or sobriety, he's your guy. Thank you for being here. Like,
Thank you,
seriously, I really,
Shayla.
it was
Thank
awesome.
you so much, Shayla. Thank you.
And you can reach, if you need, my channel, Sacred Way, on YouTube here. I'm on Instagram, and I have my own Skool community, Tribe of Transformation. I have a website, but I'll list all of the links down there. But if you have any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to me, especially including the spiritual stuff, because that's my realm. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Shayla.
Thank you.